Hello everybody, I hope you're well. I've been missing everybody at GB, and I thought that given this was the week before Easter, Holy Week, I would do a short story for us. Something like what we would do at the beginning of GB when we're all together, because they're really special, precious times. Do you remember those times when we have a chat about maybe something that's happening in the church or at home or at school or in the seasons, and then we talk about who we want to pray for as a girls' brigade? So today I'm obviously going to pray for everybody in GB, that we stay safe and that we stay well, and everybody in our church family. Those who are maybe not well, those who are relatives of somebody who's not well, and we just pray that God would know, or they would know, God's presence and God's love at this time, as we would all. We'll pray for those that are lonely, that are missing their friends and their family. The message I wanted to share with you relates to the post that we had in our church bulletin last week, and that I put on our GB Facebook group the other day. And it's about our Easter tables and displays. And it's to remind us why we have some of the different things on the one in church, but also perhaps on the ones at home we've been working on too. So first of all, we have some flowers, which are to remind us that Easter happens in the spring. And it reminds us of new growth and new birth, as do the baby chicks and the baby lambs that we see at this time of year. And do you remember at Girls' Brigade we've been talking about the fact that those things remind us that it's a new season, but they also remind us of the new life that we have when we become a Christian. When we put our trust in God, it helps us to have a new life in Him, an eternal life, an everlasting life. So that's when we look at baby chicks and baby lambs, what we can remember. Also, do you remember at Girls' Brigade we decorated these little polystyrene eggs? We'd written on them the things we were thankful for, and we put them up on our Easter tree. I've got one at home here, and during this week we're maybe going to write some words of the things we're thankful for, and we're going to have it here as part of our Easter display. And the reason for eggs at Easter, I wonder if you can remember what we talked about that night. But the reason we have eggs at Easter was because A, they remind us of the fact that the big stone that was at the front of the tomb of Jesus when he was buried was rolled away, so that when the women went to the tomb on that Easter morning, the stone was rolled away. It was a big round-shaped stone, and it was moved, it was gone, and Jesus was no longer there. And in this week before Easter, we're going to be remembering all the things that happened in the week that led up to Jesus' death, when he died on the cross for us. And we'll also be remembering on an Easter morning that we know the other end of that story, that Jesus was not dead, he was alive, that God was with him, and he had raised from the dead, and he was alive. So that's why we have eggs at Easter. And what used to happen in the olden days, before the time of the lovely big chocolate eggs, in the time of Lent, which is the period before Easter, people used up all their eggs. And that's why we had Shrove Tuesday, to use up all the eggs in the pancakes. And then they would keep their eggs all of the 40 days and 40 nights before Easter. And those eggs would then be decorated, rolled, pickled, hard-boiled, saved, and used to celebrate Easter. And that's another reason why in the time of Lent we give up things, or sometimes take up things, to remind us of that time when people used to give up eggs, to remember the fact that Jesus was in the desert fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, and he was tempted, but he had to try and not give in to that temptation. So there's some of the things, if you remember, we've talked about in GB. The things that we have at Easter that remind us so much of that wonderful Easter story. The triumphal entry into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, when all the people laid the palms down on their cloaks on the ground as Jesus entered on a donkey. The trial of Jesus when he was arrested, the Last Supper that he had with his disciples, the crucifixion on Good Friday, his death, and then on a glorious Easter morn, his resurrection. So I'm just going to share a story with you now. If you want to look it up in your Bible at home, you can, and you'll find the Easter story in Matthew 27 and John 19. When Jesus had died, two men, Joseph and Nicodemus, came to Pilate, and they asked him if they could take Jesus' body away to be buried. He said yes, and Jesus' body was taken down from the cross and buried in a brand new tomb. Some women who had been friends of Jesus came and saw where his body was buried. They went home to get things ready, and when they had rested on God's special day, the day after, they then came back to the tomb to anoint Jesus' body with spices and perfumes. And when the women arrived early at the tomb, they found that the stone had been rolled away. There was no body there. What a puzzle! Suddenly, two men in gleaming clothes stood right before them, right beside them. The women were frightened, but the man asked, "Why are you looking for the living amongst the dead? He is not here. He is risen. Remember how he told you that on the third day he would rise again." The women rushed back to tell the disciples about what they had just seen, what they had discovered. Peter didn't believe the news and had to go and check it out for himself. He rushed to the tomb and went in, only to find it empty, with the strips of linen lying by themselves. The cloth that had been around Jesus' head was folded by itself separate from the linen, and Peter wasn't sure what had happened. As we know, the story goes on, and Jesus appears to his disciples in the next few days, and the realization that Jesus was not dead, he was alive, dawns on him. I hope that as we go through this next week, and let's be honest, it's a strange week. Normally when we're on school holidays, we get the chance to go out and visit our friends and our family. And that, for us, isn't going to happen this week. So when we go through this more difficult week, when we think about the Easter story, I just hope that you can really remember the end of the story. And that is that Jesus isn't dead, that he's alive. When we tuck into those lovely chocolate eggs, we remember the new life we can have when we believe that the Easter story means that each of us, when we put our trust in Jesus, we can have a new life in him. Keep safe, everybody. I hope to see you in person soon. I'm sending you all a super GB high five, and I hope to see you all very, very soon. Bye. I don't know what